So hello everyone, yesterday we saw about environment variables and secrets in Docker. So today we'll see about production ready Dockerfile, which is multi-stage builds. So what issues were in our previous Dockerfile? So basically when we used to create a Docker file and when we used to run it in order to create a image and run the container, the image size used to be bigger. The build tools used to stay inside of that image file. The deploys during CI/CD are slower if we wrote such a Docker file, and the security surface larger. Basically, basically means that the Docker container by default runs by root user, right? So if that container is basically hacked, it increases the chances of making the situation more worse if the user is root. So that's the thing. Now in order to solve that, we will going to use multi-stage build. So what multi-stage basically means that, and this multi-stage build is basically used in production, in startup or in company. So what we will do is that we will create it into two stages, stage 1 and stage 2. In stage 1 we'll basically build and install dependencies, and after that we will only run the app. Basically think it as in this way, that stage 1 will be factory and stage 2 will be only shop, because we don't bring the factory's machinery into the shop, right? So that's the reason why we are using multi-stage, in order to make your image more light, efficient, and more secure than the previous image, right? So what we will do is that let's first dive into the terminal and let's create a small project, and where we will create this Docker file, right? So let me head back to the terminal, and here let's make a directory with fast API, and use you can give prod basically for production, and here we'll check, and here you can see it's basically created. Now let me simply go to the fast API prod, and here what we'll basically need is that we'll basically need main.py. We'll also need dot docker file, then okay, so as of now we'll just need these two things, and let's open VS Code and let's wait for few seconds until it's open. Let's change the folder because this is not the same folder that we want, and we created fast API prod, right? So let's select it, and yeah, it's open. So here what we have to do is that, so we created these two files, main.py and .dockerfile. We'll also need to create requirements.txt for it, right? And it's created. Now let's do one thing, let's write the requirements.txt first. We'll basically need this two for running the fast API, right? So here we'll just create an example for like basically a project for an example how we can write a production level .docker file, and we'll also run the image, and we'll basically see, right, what a difference is there in normal Docker file and in production ready Docker file. So let's write this from fast from fast API. Let's import fast API. Here we'll need to put this fast API. Here app dot get this, and a function, let's say root, and okay, so root, and unit 2 will simply return one message will be hello from a prod basically means a production, as this we going to use, right? So we wrote the main.py as well. Now what we need to do is that we need to simply write the docker.py, right? So in order to write a docker.py, what we will do is that we'll basically see what we can write inside the docker.py, .dockerfile, and we'll basically see how it's different from the previous .dockerfile. So let's head back to the node screen. So here we are dividing the .docker file into two stages, as I said earlier. Stage 1 is for builder and stage 2 is for runtime. So let me explain you stage 1 for builder. So here what we are doing is that we are creating a container where we will only store or download the files that are required for or that is basically required for fast API, right? And in stage 2, which will be of runtime, where we will use the files downloaded in this container so that it will become lightweight. So here, as you can see, we have used a standard Python image and we have used alias as builder. So basically we are naming this image as builder. The work directory will be /app, and here what we are doing is that we are installing the build dependencies. Like some Python packages needs a compilation, like numpy or scikop-g2, they need compilation, and that's the reason why we are installing GCC. But GCC is not needed for the runtime, it's only needed during the build. So we do not need to put GCC in the final image, right? After that we are copying requirements.txt into this directory. So this is for caching, so that it will not download the same requirements again and again, right? After that it's installing the requirements.txt. basically here what we are doing, we are upgrading the pip first. After that, on the next line we are running this command. And no cache directory, as I said in part 3 or part 4, that this no cache is for pip install. Like during pip install, it also downloads some of the cache files that are not basically used. So that's the reason we don't want its cache file as well. So here we are doing this. So in a stage 1 builder, we have just downloaded the requirements and all the thing. Now in stage 2, which is of a runtime, where we have used the standard Python image, this working directory as /app, and here what we are doing is that we are copying the installed packages from builder. So basically we are using command copy from builder. This is source and destination, though it looks same, but it is different. How it's different? So this location is basically of the builder container, where it has already downloaded the requirements, right? And this location is of this runtime, where there are no files and nothing. So we are copying the files from this location to this location, and we are only copying the necessary files that are required, and unnecessary files or the builder files are not been copied, which makes the image lightweight, efficient during CI/CD pipeline. Here also we are copying the required files from this source to destination location, right? After that we need to copy application code. we are including all the code from the folder to this particular working directory. After that, we are creating the non-root user for security purpose. Now, as I said earlier, that the container runs the container runs by default in root, which may cause an security issues if the container is basically hacked. So in order to solve that problem, we are basically creating the non-root user whose job will be only to run this command. This user will not be given any kind of special privileges to download any kind of packages or anything, nor that user will be given permission to manipulate in database as well. So during production, when you will be use a database, so at that time this user will not be given any kind of special permissions to write the data. So even if the container is basically hacked, so that a hacker would not be able to manipulate the data. So that's the reason why we are creating the non-root user over here. And here we are exposing the 8000 port just for documentation purpose, and this is the command that will basically run when we will build the image and when we want to run the container. So yeah, now let's get back to the terminal. As you have understood all this thing about Dockerfile, now let's write it inside the Dockerfile and let's run the container, right? So I'll head back to the VS Code, and inside Dockerfile, first will be of uh, stage 1, which is builder, right? So inside the builder, what we need is that we need Python 3.10 slim as builder, right? Now work dir will be /app and will basically run the apt get update and apt get install by gcc. So as I told, this only needs during build, so that's the reason why we are using that. Now I'll need to copy requirement .txt for pre-caching to the working directory, and then I'll need to run command, that is run pip install no cache dir upgrade pip, and so this, and will basically use and pip install no cache dir, and after that we'll need to use our requirements.txt in order to download all the requirements that are necessary, right? So stage 1 builder file is ready. Now let's write stage 2, which will be for runtime, right? Now here what we'll need to do is that again same from Python 3.10 slim working directory we need to set, which will be same app, and then we'll need to copy from builder, right? The location will be /user local live Python 3.10, and the destination will be also same in the sense this is for this runtime image that we are creating, or this this working directory that we are creating. So basically these two are different containers, right? So remember it in this way. We are not just copying and pasting in same location, but they are a different location. And here we'll put user a local bin, and here we'll also copy and paste. Now after that we'll need to copy the app files from this to destination as well, right? And we'll need to run user add. We are creating another user which is app user, and here we will set the user as app user, which will run the further commands. Here we'll basically expose the 8000 port. This is just for documentation purpose, and now we'll going to basically run this command, which will be ubicon main app, post will be this 0.0.0.0, basically means open for all network interfaces, and port will be 8000, right? The same command that we used in part 3 of 4, right? So the .docker file is ready, and one thing that we need to add, that is .docker ignore, and here will need for docker, that is .docker this. We will exclude this, right? So our project is basically completed, or our example is completed. Now let's save and let's try to build the image. Now in order to build the image, the command is docker build t, which is for tag. Tag basically means the name of the image that we want, which will be fast API img, right? And this dot is basically means the current location of the docker file, which is this fast API production, and let me hit enter. It should work fine if we don't have any kind of errors and all. So here it says failed to read a docker file. It basically says that it failed to read a docker file. Open docker file, no such file or directory. Let me check it over here. I think it should be only docker file. It was basically my mistake that I used .docker file. Now let's hit enter, and yeah, now the error is something different, which is this docker parser unknown flag from builder. So okay, so here it's equal to, not minus. Now let's again click, and now it should run smoothly. Okay, now it's basically running. You don't make this mistake which is minus instead of equals to, right? So it's equals to and not minus. And here also it's just a docker file, not dot docker file, remember this. And it's basically running all all the things. You could also read from this logs, which says that this command is basically running. So basically it's working for stage 1, which is builder, right? And this was for stage 2, which is runtime. Now if I check docker images, here you can see the name of the image, that is fast API img. Now I need to run fast API img. Okay, so it's now here you can see that it's basically running on this local host. Now if I went to the browser and I'll click on local host 8000, uh, it says that it cannot be reached. mm, okay, and what's the reason why it's not running over there? Let's go to main.py. It should run, it should not make any kind of errors if image is running successfully. So here also you can see we haven't got any kind of error, but still it's not running. Let me check if there is any kind of problem over here. So basically we built the image. Yeah, so basically the thing or the mistake we did is that as this is basically the we need to run it as a background process. So that's the reason I made mistake, where I need to do port mapping as well, so that the port of the browser will be mapped with the port of the Docker container I told you in the previous lecture, right? So I'll use this. Now if I went to browser and I'll reload it, now here you can see the message that is hello from prod that we have given in our code. So here you can see that how we wrote a production level how we wrote production level docker file, and basically why we basically wrote the kind of docker file. Now here you can see the size of this fast API image, which is 173 MB, which is much more less than the image size that we created in our previous project, which was around 350 megabytes, right? So that's the reason why we need to write such kind of a production ready files, and why we are basically using multi-stage builds. So that's the reason why we are doing this. Now I also want you to show one thing that was basically um, so let me simply remove this. Docker case. Okay, so I need to remove this, and after that I just want to show you one thing. Just a second, I'll simply okay. I need to stop this. Okay, now I'll simply remove it because I want to show you one thing. Okay, it's removed, and I'll basically run this as interactive terminal fast API image bin and bash. We are inside this container. Now let's check, run this command, who am I, and here you can see it's app user. So we have also successfully created the user, right? And that's the reason it's showing us app user, which has limited permissions, right? So this was all for today's video. Now let's get back to our node screen again. So this was it from my side, where we have created the production level Docker file. We all seen what kind of issues the Docker file, regular Docker file that we used to write, consist of, and what is its solution in order to overcome that challenge. So yeah, this was all from my side, and do like, share and subscribe to this channel if you like the video, and I'll see you in next video. So in next video we'll basically see about networking in Docker, and after that we'll basically work with GitHub Actions for CI/CD pipeline, and after that we'll basically see about deployment in the cloud, right? So this was it from my side in today's video, and until then, happy coding, bye.